So the last thing that we're going to do here is we're going to talk about some commonly mixed up percents and decimals and comparing some decimals, percents, and fractions. And so the first thing is 500% written as a decimal. So we're going to take all of these percentages and take them to be a decimal, percents and decimals. And so when we take our decimal point, it's after the 0, because 500 is a whole number. It's at the end here. We move it two places to the left, and our whole number now is 5 0/10, or 0/100, and so 500% is equal to the whole number 5. But then 50%, if we take our decimal at the end of the whole number, move it 2 places to the left, is 0 5/10. And then 5%, this is the one that's tricky because you move the decimal 2 places, but there's no number here. So you have to put a 0 in as a placeholder and write 5% as 0 5/100, which makes sense because we're talking about per 100. 5 over 100 would be read as a fraction 5/100, which is the same way that we read this decimal, 5/100. And then the last one, we've got 5/10%. So half of a percent, we move that decimal 2 places, always 2 places, and our new decimal is 0 5/1000. And often we just want to take the decimal from the end and go twice, but we've got to pay attention to where our decimal is and make sure we move it twice no matter what. So now going the other way, going from decimal to percent, 4 is a whole number. If I move my decimal, I'm moving it to the right this time. And 4 as a percent is 400%. 4 times the amount is 400% of the amount. And then we've got 4/10. If we move our decimal 2 places to the right, we have to add a 0 placeholder in, and we get 40%. The next one, we move our decimal 2 places to the right, and it's right at the end of the 4. So 4/100 is 4%. And then this last one, 0 4/1000, we move the decimal 2 places, and it's still in front of the 4, so we have to put 0 4/10%. So just be extra careful as you look and change percents and decimals that you're always moving that decimal 2 places, even if it means adding in a 0 placeholder like we did here and here, or like we did at the end here and here. So just be extra careful when you're doing that. The last thing we want to do here for comparing numbers, the key point is that all numbers must be in the same form before you can compare. You can make them all fractions, all decimals, or all percents. Changing all to percent form is usually the easiest. Not the most, it's not what you have to do, but usually that is the easiest. So in this case, we've already got 1 as a percent, 40%. If I want to compare these two, I've got to make this one a percent as well, or I've got to make this one a decimal. Either way works. I'm just going to use the hint and make it a percentage. 40% and 45%, I know that 45 is bigger, and so I put in my less than symbol here. 40% is less than 45%. This next one, 3%, this is already a percentage, so I'm going to keep it as a percent. And then I'm going to change this decimal to a percent by moving the decimal 2 places to the right. When I do that, I get 3%, and I know that 3% is equal to 3%, so I put in my equal sign. And then my last one, 1/4, I'm going to use my calculator, 1 divided by 4, to get a decimal, 0 25/100. To make that decimal into a percentage, I can move the decimal 2 places to the right, and I get 25%. When I compare 25% and this one over here, which is already a percentage, 26%, 25 is less than 26, so 1/4 is less than 26%. The most important part when we're comparing is that we make sure things are in the same form. So whether they're all decimals, all percentages, all fractions, it doesn't matter. Just make sure that they're always in the same form. And if you're going to convert to fractions, make sure then too that you also have a common denominator.